Join us for this episode of All Things Psychic Mediumship. Listen in as Kelly and Claire, both practicing psychic mediums, share their insights and experience with psychic detection, the power of decoding your dreams, how intuition and the psychic arts work, and personal stories from their own practice. This episode will focus on the mechanics of psychic detection and finding those who are lost or missing, how decoding your dreams allows you to tap into psychic information that is personalized for you, and all in all, how visitation dreams represent how those in the world of spirit communicate with us through the power of consciousness. Join in, get ready, and listen for all things psychic mediumship.
Welcome, welcome. It is Kelly and Claire. We are here for you. We are going to be talking about everything psychic mediumship, psychic detection, how to connect to your intuition, and it's going to be a really fun hour. I brought a dream with me today that I'm going to love to be able to tell people how to distinguish between what's a visitation dream, what's a regular dream for your soul life, and Kelly has brought so much great information about her work with psychic detection. So let's get started. So happy to be here, Kelly.
Yeah,
so great
me
that,
too. So fun
yeah,
to work with you, Claire.
I know, so great. So Kelly, where are you in California again? Where are you exactly?
I am in Central California, a little town called Visalia.
Very
Our
nice.
thing is we're the gateway to the Sequoias. It's our claim to
Ooh,
fame.
very cool, very cool. And I'm in
And
Berlin. Yeah,
Berlin.
Berlin. So thanks to technology, we can go ahead and like link in and do whatever we want. No sort of time difference will be in our way or geography. So that's rad.
Perfect.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, and Kelly, as we talk tonight, like it'd be great whenever I ask you something, if you want to talk about like your work and what you do and things of this nature, feel free, right? Bring it in all the details for us because it is really, really cool what you do.
Yeah, and
Um,
I have a lot of questions for you as well.
okay, great. I love it. All right, let's get started. Very, very cool. Do you have something that you want to ask me
Yeah.
or? Okay.
Do you care if I go first? Because I'm like super interested.
Yeah, let's do
Um,
it.
I know you do a lot of work with dreams,
Yeah.
and that is like also a passion of mine, but I'm not an expert. So I would love to know. I know you've been doing this for a very long time, the dream interpretation.
Mm,
Um, so do you know, like I have a lot of visitation dreams,
nice.
and I would like to know kind of how you interpret them and like if you get symbols and because I know you do a lot more than just the generic interpretation.
Right. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things to talk about. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about symbolism first, because I know that's something that people can really feel into. So, the dream world is this little magical place that when we go to sleep, all of the cares and the worries that what we're kind of carrying throughout the day are not only like laid to the side, but you are literally in a different state of consciousness where they really can't reach you in the same way as you're generating a conscious mind of 9 to 5, paying the bills, picking up the kids, doing this, doing that. So it's this like really beautiful, magical sphere of existence where the soul mind going into the subconscious state has the ability to communicate, like the soul communicates with the soul, if you will, and it does it through the language of symbology, right? That's why our dreams are so funky in the way of like, I woke up and I was holding a teddy bear and I talked to a man that had a giraffe in his arms. That's why they're just so funky, right? It's because we are literally in a different state of consciousness. And we are, instead of it being English or German or Spanish or what have you, it's the language of symbolism, right? And some of those symbols are kind of like state of the art. They mean, they have a general meaning to everybody. And then there's the symbolisms that comes through that they are part of your own unique diary, your own glossary, right? And only you really can know, right? So it's a beautiful thing to start to teach people, okay, here's some symbolism that you can always know. For instance, like a house, when you dream of a house or a cabin or things of that nature, it generally, not always, but generally represents self, right? I went into a house and there was a construction site on the third level and the second level, right? Generally denotes a kind of transition in your life where you're working on yourself. Something is under construction, right? And for instance, another really great one is, and people tend to misinterpret it or indulge it, are snakes, right? Everybody's like, oh God, I was dreaming of snakes and I saw them and this, that, and the other. It has a lot to do with, in a general manner, snakes represent transformation, right? And transition in a dream, shedding off the old, going into something new. But it's also how the dreamer feels about them, right? Like I could feel one way about snakes and be like, oh, I am absolutely petrified of them. I'm not, right? But let's just say that I were. I'm petrified of snakes. Now, someone dreaming about that in a dream is going to be very different than someone's like, yeah, I always had a pet snake. I love them, right? I let them crawl over my room. So they're going to have a very different association with snakes and what they mean, right? But generally, it's about transition. So those are the dreams that if you walk through them, they can give you such amazing guidance, right? Some of the best psychic information that is available to you in a way that you have to unlock for yourself. It does have to be unpacked, right? It does have to be interpreted. The visitation dreams are ones where they don't really need to be interpreted. They are straightforward. It is as if, you wake up and the person that you are talking to, maybe I should back up and explain a visitation dream for some that don't know. A visitation dream is generally considered that a loved one in spirit who is departed comes in because you are in that different state of consciousness that I talked about. They are able to touch your mind, touch your sensory system, touch your intuition in such a way that when you wake up, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is that was so real. That was like I was talking to them. It was like they were sitting in front of me. It was like when they died, right? And so these are the instances where it's you don't need to do much. You just are in a kind of open state, right? And sometimes it's a lot about what you're doing in your life. Are you working on your own intuition? Like how open are you? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes they come to you in a moment where you're really having a tough time in your life, right? And they know they can reach you when you sleep, so they wait. And they wait to contact you in your sleep. And they can reach you in such a manner that because they're in an energy form in the world of spirit, right? Because consciousness does survive physical death, they are able to manifest in a way like when they were 40, when they were 50, it doesn't matter. They're able to do it. And they're able to give incredible comfort in those instances. That's why they're just so special. Have you had you've had a couple of visitation dreams or something?
Yeah, actually, that's how I started recognizing that I had, abilities.
Yeah.
And I always say, the first one was with my father when he passed away, and it was right when he passed away, right? And then I woke up and the phone rang and it was a hospital, he passed away.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was when I was 12, and I'm 57 now, and I remember that dream like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I always say the visitation dreams are ones that you'll remember forever, right?
That's right.
And then throughout my life, and then I also find it kind of funny, maybe you can kind of touch on this. I will also have random visitation dreams from random people. So like my old boss,
Right.
people I went to elementary school with,
Mhm.
and it's
Yep.
like I have thought about them forever. So
Yeah, I mean, if you know that they have passed, right?
yes.
Yeah, they passed, right? Because otherwise it would be what that person represents to you, right? But when you know they've passed, it's like exactly what you said. Time is like means nothing in those instances, right? It can be 20 years ago, it can be 30 years ago. And they can come and it's funny and it really kind of shows us, and you'll know this as a psychic medium. It really shows us like the souls that even if we didn't think we had a big connection to them in this incarnation, somehow or another they were very important to us, right? And that they were a part of either an extended soul group or they were just an important actor in our life that we weren't really, very aware of. It's interesting that you say that too, because some of the visitation dreams that I have had, right? Like I thought for ages that happened to people all the time, right? And that this was just something that was normal that like everyone
Yeah.
did. I came to recognize that psychic mediums, of course, through their work and through who they are, that it's a major psychic channel for them, major, right? And so, but you never forget them. They stay with you for a lifetime and they are just that powerful, right? I had someone actually recently, a mentorship student, she was doing my, dream mentorship about learning how to like take really great advice and guidance from their dreams. Someone that they had really weren't very, very close to in high school, right? 20, 25 years on, who has just passed away. came into the dream, connected with her, and basically gave her the message of, and that's kind of funny when that happens. Sometimes in a visitation dream, you're like, hey, what are you doing here? And they're like, I just came to see you. And then the conscious awareness like trickles in just a tiny bit, and they're like, wait a second, you're supposed to be dead. Like, why are you here? I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but those are the instances where we really start to learn about how consciousness works. But that was something that happened to her, and she was like, why are you here? Aren't you dead? And it was really, really sophisticated and clever, the answer that he gave. He's like, oh, because his funeral had not taken place yet. And he was like, oh, I clock out after my funeral. I clock out after my funeral. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Amazing, right? And this is someone that, of course, she knew in school, right? But had not talked to in a really long time, really wasn't terribly close to. But it really shows if you are open, and if they can, and that's what I sometimes find too. They love to leave messages that maybe you would tell someone else. They love to use you as the medium, right? That happens to me a lot. I don't know if that happens to you as a psychic medium, but that happens a lot to me.
Yeah, and I had almost that same exact situation with a client that I was reading for.
Wow.
And it was a little bit harder because she wanted me to guess who or kind of contact this person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was like, someone former that she knew that came during this visitation dream, and he had passed. So I'm loving listening to you explain all this.
Yeah, it's wild, right? And it's limitless. And some of the dreams that happen sometimes in that visitation level are a little bit what you talked about as well, where you get like your soul gets like a pre-warning of events that are about to transpire, right? And it's like visitation slash delving into the realm of prophetic dreams, right? Where you literally see the future. Yeah. Amazing stuff.
And I have something that just came up the other day as well. It comes up quite a bit, and I know it probably comes up for you, and you probably have a better answer. And I have an idea of what is going on, but what is your thought on like people who have a loved one that just recently passed and they're waiting for them to come in a dream? I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah. So the thing is that what I have found is that when someone that you are very close to passes, that there's no rhyme or reason why they can't enter into the dream state really quickly to see you. I think it has like two things. I do believe that sometimes there is a little bit of the grief veil, right? That it's hard to penetrate. I really do. I think that is important, not only because of feelings and what you're going through, and maybe like some emotional things that just take up your energy and you don't have a lot of resources to be open to that kind of communication. But the other thing that I think sometimes is that I think the grief process is incredibly important, and that souls understand that they can't disrupt it, and they shouldn't, and I think that they can give heartfelt feelings, and sometimes they can show up in a dream and you simply don't remember, right? You just simply don't remember because it's hard to recall it, right? Sometimes people struggle with that. You can get over it, but sometimes people struggle with it. And the other reason is that sometimes I feel like they don't want to cause, like, a soul who has just passed doesn't want to cause any distress, right? Even if it's a great dream.
Yeah.
And even if they want to connect and give heartfelt feelings, they understand that their grief process is really hard for them, and they don't want to cause anything more to happen, and any kind of just any kind of further strain for someone that's already in the trenches of grief, as it were, right? But yeah, that's what I like to tell people, because
Yeah.
if you wait, and if you're patient, and if you put it out to the universe, and do your own work, right? Make sure that you're open, make sure that you're working on your intuition, make sure that you're doing meditation, whatever way that you need to, right? And just be open to it. I mean, even as a psychic medium, right? I've even thought, dear teachers from my high school years that have passed away, one in particular recently. I thought to myself, how long will it take him? How long will it take him, right? Will he come through a reading? Will he come through a dream? And I waited patiently, but it took a year, right? It took a full year. And you just have to wait, right? You just have to wait. One of the things that I'll say about visitation dreams that I find really special is what I really love. This happened to me recently with a dear friend, again, past 30 years ago now. The way that they show up is very important. How they look is very important to them, right? What age they show themselves. It generally tends to be like the age that they felt their best, right? But
Yeah.
if there was anything that was like severe, like a severe illness where they passed and they didn't look well, or in more extreme cases like my friend, if it was dying by suicide, they will
Hmm.
always show up with like what I love to call the dream sparkle. And that is that when you connect with them, they just have like this beautiful glow around them and they look healthy and they look just healed, right? It's always a feeling of healing. And it's always a feeling of, you know, that they are somewhere, their spiritual home, where deep healing is taking part. And I find them so comforting. I find that so comforting about the dream world to be able to realize that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Amazing.
I
Dream
love it.
spark. I love
The dream
that.
sparkle, right? Yeah. And it's like the visitations, you never forget it. And those are some of the ones that I love to share with people. If I'll dream of people where, particularly if the passing was hard, but you could go, hey, I saw him in a dream and I just want you to know he looks amazing, really healthy, really healed. Yeah, those are some of my favorites, my absolute favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have another question. So sorry.
Yeah, no, please,
But you
please,
got me
please.
going now, right?
That's all right.
I've had this dream before as well,
Yeah.
where somebody comes to visit and they want you to go with them. And
Oh.
you actually helped me on this dream. It was with
I'm
my dad.
remembering. Yes, I'm remembering
Yeah.
that dream now.
And I worried about this, I mean, literally for probably 40 years, right?
Mhm,
What did this
mhm,
mean? And I was 18 when I had this dream.
mhm.
And you really helped me with that. But what do you, I also recently had a Native American lady here ask me,
Mhm.
say that when people come to in dreams and try to have them go with them, that they are, that it's really bad, that you could, get lost and this person's
Mhm.
lost. And so,
Right. It's
uh,
it's you know it's really interesting. A lot of different cultures in South America, Native American Indians, but also in the Asian cultures, they have very different understandings of the dream world and dream time. And the same for the indigenous culture in Australia, right? And so it's been passed down through many different cultures about what it represents and what it means, and they have their own meanings for their culture and their tribal understanding. And I think that in its very basic sense, that when you dream of something where they're saying they want you to come with them or they want to be with you, I actually think that it's more in a sense of an understanding that your conscious mind in a dream state has the ability to connect with them in a non-human form, and that it more surrounds something like that, and that you can walk with me where you want to, you can experience what you want to, and you will be returned to the body. Really, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go, right? And that's the magic of the universe. That's the plans that our souls make before incarnation, right? And it's the way that it goes. What I do love about it, and I don't pretend to understand completely what tribes, but also indigenous cultures feel about it. But what I do love about it is that I think it always points to one of those fundamental concepts that when you are dreaming, your core essence, your soul being, that energy, whatever you want to call it, your higher mind, has the ability to detach, not completely, right? But to detach from the body and to go where it wants to, similar to astral travel, similar to an out of body experience. And we can traverse the universe like in that form, right? And we can experience and learn, we can teach in that form. We have a multitude of experiences that are available to us when we are in that pure energy state, right? And of course you're always connected to the body through the silver cord, right? And so you re-enter the body at one point before you wake up, right? Sometimes, and if it's a little bit if it's a little bit abrupt, like that sometimes, unless it's like a medical condition, that's like the reason for sleep paralysis, right? When we're
yeah.
re-entering the body, that you can't move it at first, and that the soul has to completely join again with this vessel before everything comes back into coordination, right? Before we wake. But yeah, that's a great question. That's a fabulous question, actually. Because it points to what is our true energy state, What's our true energy state? That's cool. So
Amazing.
as we're talking about dreams, and I'm happy that I could talk all day about them, particularly symbolism. But as I'm talking to you, I'm really interested in this question. I know that you do fabulous psychic detection work.
Mhm.
And I know that you like, I want to talk about some of your cases today, and I want to talk about like anything you want to do, but have you ever experienced, like, I know for psychic mediums, but also people that are practicing psychic mediums, the dream channel is this incredibly intuitive channel, right? That you can get information on. For psychic mediums, it's like double. So I wanted to ask you, when you are looking at cases, missing persons, murdered persons, like whatever it is, have you ever had any information come through for a case in a dream? Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yes, actually I have.
Have you? Oh, that's cool.
I work with a group of, actually, they all happen to be ladies.
Mhm,
Um, and we were working on a case for a family.
mhm,
And I had a dream. It was a missing girl. I
mhm,
had a dream that she was at her boyfriend's house and that she was during the day in the closet to
mhm.
hide from the mom. And then when
Whoa.
the mom went to work, she came out. And, we worked on this case for probably a couple months, and that's where she was. She was at the boyfriend's house.
Oh my gosh, so you literally dreamed it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's
yeah,
fun to get that validation because you don't always get that. But
that's absolutely right. Yeah, incredible. And that's just so crazy because, it really also talks a little bit about like how in those dream wave states, right? How we connect with people, how we connect with different forms of consciousness, and how it allows us to tap into, information that can't be seen with normal eyes, right? But while we're on it, it's actually a lovely time, if you don't mind, I would love to ask you some questions about psychic detection.
yeah, of course.
Um, how did you get into psychic detection? And for you, like, like, what exactly is it for you, psychic detection? Because I'm fascinated by it all.
Yeah, I know it's not for everybody, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I always blame it on my Scorpio, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I grew up like loving mysteries, like, I mean, watching the old TV shows like Columbo and Murder, She Wrote and all
Mm-hmm.
these kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've always just been fascinated almost by like human behavior. What are these
Mm-hmm.
people thinking? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, my theory is if we can, even if nobody asks, if we can help by doing these cases, sometimes it's like healing, and that
Mm.
healing goes out into the universe. I mean, that's kind of my thought.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
No, well said. Yeah. And I've always really been curious as a psychic medium, like, could you walk me through how it is, like, and if you have a case, you could even, like, explore it and through that a specific example, but how do you, using the mechanics of psychic detection and the psychic arts, like, how do you find this information? What are the mechanics behind it?
Yeah, I teach classes and I kind of teach the way that I also work.
Mhm.
So we always start with looking into the eyes, right? The eyes are the window
Oh,
to the soul.
that's cool.
And and I like to kind of go in stages. So the first time around, we just look for, the basics, personality, these kind of things, right?
Mhm.
And then do a deeper dive and go into what happened and the whole crime. And in most of the cases, we have an idea of what
Yeah,
happened, and
right.
we're just trying to figure out the missing pieces.
I say
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing. Mhm.
some people are actually, I always call it your psychic superpower.
Mhm.
It's always fun to find out what yours is because everybody has one.
True.
So what I mean by that, I have some students who, when the person is still alive and we're not
Mhm.
sure, they might see the face move. They might
Mm,
see the mouth move.
mm,
Um, Another one, when trying to decipher if they're alive or past. The eyes look, she explains it, wet, or they
mm.
look dry, or,
Amazing.
there's loss of a spark.
Mhm.
Um, these kinds of things. The
Amazing.
other day I was teaching a class, sorry,
No, go
teaching
ahead.
a class, and someone kept saying they saw the lady holding back the dog
Mm,
at her apartment, and I knew that wasn't the information that we had,
mhm.
but you never want to discourage. So I'm like, okay, keep working with that. What do you think that is?
Mhm.
And she's a tarot card reader. So she made that the connection to that was the Fool card. And
Mhm.
so that had the interpretation of what we were working on in the case.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Amazing. So symbolism everywhere, right? Just like in the dream
Yes.
world, symbolism. So when you say like you first start with the eyes and like for some people wet means they have passed, do you mean when you look at a photo of the missing
Yes.
person? Wow. So
Yeah.
you work with
Yeah.
a
Thank
lot of
you.
photos. Yeah, work with a lot of photos. Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting. And so basically using like the psychic arts, you're trying to connect with their energy first, the missing person first.
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. Is there any like, is that always a good thing to do because it sets an anchor for how the energy comes through, or why is it always, because some people might think, okay, start with like who you think a perpetrator is. Is there a reason why you start with a missing person specifically?
Um, that's a really good question. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it depends on like when I'm teaching,
Mhm.
I'm teaching for a skill, right?
Yeah.
So I'm having them practice in different ways.
Mhm.
I like to start with the victim.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if I feel like I have a better connection with them.
Mhm.
Some people will look at the perpetrator and they get really disturbed.
Yeah.
Not that you can't come back from that, but it's almost hard to take separate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to start with the victim.
That's really smart. I've heard other psychic detectives and psychic mediums talk about that, where it's really important to connect with the energy of the victim. So I was really curious how you said that and why you do that. And do you like when you are doing this, do you teach, but also do you experience that all of the senses should be used? Like you could hear the voice of the victim, you could see it. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, that's one way I teach in general,
Mhm.
is I believe that everybody, again, has their way of learning. I'm a former teacher, just like
Sure.
you're a
That's
teacher.
right. That's
And
right.
so we know that people learn in different ways, right?
Very
Different
true.
modalities, visual, auditory, what have you.
That's
So
right.
I believe the same concept is for psychic detection.
Yeah.
Uh, some people are going to, I teach how I learn, but
Mhm.
I always let people know that they should do it the way they learn. So if they're hearing all the information, stick with that. And then in class, I'll prompt them to expand and try a different modality. Maybe it's
Mhm.
you're gonna try clairvoyance and you're going to try to practice that. But
Mhm.
generally, we go back to what we're comfortable with, and I think that's actually what makes it really great to work as a group,
Mhm.
because one of the groups that I work with, we all kind of have our own skill set.
Yeah.
So someone's the psychic artist.
Mhm.
That's not my skill set, right?
Mhm.
Somebody's the does the forensic astrology.
So cool.
Somebody else taps in, different ways. So we all kind of work together. And it's kind
Amazing.
of, how it is when you're working psychically and someone says something and it just hits you,
Mhm.
and it can change your way you thought before. But that's what I love about working as a group, because we kind of come up with a consensus and
Mhm.
work with it, and it just seems to work that
That's
way.
fascinating. And I believe that like psychic detection must work so well with group, right? If
Mhm.
everyone's really in sync, it must be amazing because just like their own abilities, some of these cases are so complicated, I think, like motive and what happened and disguising weapons and what things of that nature. And I'm just so curious about it. Like is there ever a time when it's important to use the psychic arts to try and find a perpetrator, particularly if there's more than one? Like at one point, is that a must, or are you like, nah, not really?
Um, yeah, you know what? I think everyone would have a different answer on this.
Yeah.
But as far as trying to find them, sometimes there's like multiple people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know which one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might look at each different suspect
Right.
and again kind of come up with a consensus, or I like this as well, going with what you get,
Yeah,
because you could be right and the other people could be wrong.
that's
I
very
don't know.
true.
So,
That's right,
so
Kelly.
something else I always teach is stick with what you feel is right. Um,
It's a great answer.
yeah.
And one final just question about that, and then I'd love to ask you one from some of the listeners and viewers submitted for
Okay.
us. Just one question that I always been curious about, and that is, how do psychic detectives generally work with like police force or like FBI forces? Like, could I would assume that maybe they would be very hesitant or they wouldn't
Yeah.
want, are they? Is that been in your experience? Yeah,
Mhm.
just if you can say anything to that, I'm just so curious about
Yeah.
that.
There are some psychic mediums who are well known and who work with the police and the FBI and because they built up this trust.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple things. I've been told by an officer that if the information that we get leads to the arrest or whatever, that some of that information went hold up in court. So that I don't know if that was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a wishy-washy way of saying we don't
Sure,
want to work with psychics, right?
sure.
Um, I know actually in Canada, it seems like they're more open to it. I don't know
Mm,
for whatever reason.
interesting.
Generally here, you know, maybe not too popular with the psychics helping, but I do belong to a group where there are former law enforcement, there are search and rescue, um, psychics, and they kind of like the group I was just talking about, combine
Mm-hmm.
everybody's findings on the case, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's a positive move in that direction.
Absolutely. So fascinating. Yeah. And one thing I want to ask before I get to one of the other questions is I love the work that you do with Indigenous people and Indigenous women. Could you just talk about why you I mean, God, it's like such an imperative considering of, what happens sometimes and with missing people with Indigenous cultures, but also like the lack of visibility of them. So I think it's incredibly important what you do, but maybe you could just talk for a moment about that and why you focus on that and what's your experience there.
Yeah, it also is my passion right now. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm trying to do one case each month as a class.
Amazing.
I think I got really interested in it because I'm a former teacher and I taught at juvenile hall.
Mhm.
And a lot of these young women were not were trafficked, right? And not only the victim, but they were the perpetrator. So they kept
Mhm.
them in juvenile hall. And I thought, how is that
Mhm.
helping these young ladies, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then that just kind of branched out. And I have found that the indigenous families are willing to work with psychics, which I love.
Okay.
Um, and right now I'm doing classes where part of the proceeds will go to different charities to help. So I don't know, I don't know, call it like a soul calling. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
Um, I
Amazing.
almost don't have an answer for that. It's just a
Yeah.
passion of mine.
A
It feels like
passion.
righting the wrong,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, for the
I love
unseen,
it.
the
For the
forgotten.
unseen, absolutely. I think that's incredible. And it's so
Mm.
interesting to hear you see how Indigenous families would be more open to it. I can definitely see that. No, that's fabulous, Kelly. I love that you do that. I love following your work with that. All right,
Oh,
well, let me make sure that I get to the questions from some of our viewers. And this is a little bit of a complicated one. I'm not sure if there's a total answer, but you're more of an expert here than me. Can psychic detection work for lost relatives, like birth fathers that are not known? If you have any experience with that, and even if you could just say something to the mechanics of it, because I certainly think that it would work, but yeah, whatever your thoughts are on that.
yeah. So, a couple of things. Like me personally, finding lost family members,
Mhm.
has come through dreams, So
Mm,
that has actually happened. It was a crazy story, and I won't go into it right now, but I think it can work. Uh, Part of that is also being the human side of it. We're doing the detection, doing the research, trying to find, and then kind of maybe psychically using your abilities to see what direction you should go, which lead feels right. So I think it's a combination on in that kind of a situation.
that sounds very smart. Yeah, that sounds very smart, using both of it. That's great. And then the other question was, do people use mediumship for psychic detection, or is it just psychic work? Which I always thought, oh, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely mediumship as well.
Mm,
So if the victim's in spirit, a lot of times people have connections, right?
mm,
And they actually get information from spirit about the case, and it
mm.
happens quite a bit.
That's
So yeah, so I
amazing.
don't, it's not only shouldn't only be called psychic investigation, but um because there is a lot of mediumship involved as well as other abilities. So it's
Yeah. I
yeah.
heard recently, I read in one of the UK newspapers about a psychic medium that identified where a body was because this woman in spirit came and told him, and he was able
Yeah.
to lead the police force to it. Yeah, I think we're gonna find that more and more. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but I think that we're gonna be that almost people will be forced or also open to it to acknowledge that, this actually can be an incredibly helpful tool.
Yeah, and that's my hope. I mean, I don't know where I'm going to go with it, but I'm going to fight until we we
Yeah.
can work with law enforcement and families and be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. This one you kind of already answered, but I'll just put it in here just for the sake of making sure we get all the questions in. But do you focus only on the deceased or missing person, or do you focus on the whole story for your work? And if you have a case that you're able to share, even maybe some details to walk us through that, like feel free, but however you think
Yeah.
is appropriate. Yeah.
So I think again, it's like a combination,
Mhm,
right? And so one of the cases that we've been working on lately is the Micah Miller case.
mhm.
So that's an instance where you'd focus on the entire case and
Okay.
kind of being open because everybody wants one thing, they have an idea of what happened, right?
Sure.
But everybody, you have to be open and look at each person involved, look at the situation,
Mhm,
and then do some, like I said, a deeper dive into it
mhm,
and continue to work on it. Some of these cases, like the Beaumont children, that's
mhm,
50 something years ago,
mhm.
and we still work on that.
Right,
We
right.
still get different hits. So
Mhm,
it is, I think, a combination of the whole picture.
mhm,
And sometimes we don't know the whole picture.
mhm,
Sometimes we're only given this person's missing.
mhm.
And
Right.
then you get the name, the date they went missing, and then you go from there.
Hmm.
I of course like it when there's more information, and it may feel like it's cheating when you have more information, but it's really not. It's again deciphering how that information hits you. Do you feel that's correct? Collaborating with other psychics and see what they get. So that's how I would answer that, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. And it brings it down to about this whole story of involving everyone's abilities. Because I didn't even think of that. Like when you said before about how, psychic artists were able to draw up either the missing person or draw up a scene of what happened. Someone
Mhm.
being able to not only using that information, but someone being able to use it as a psychic to then get a further hit and a further understanding of it. That sounds really real to me, and that sounds really helpful. I've heard of psychic detectives who have been contacted by police who, work with police a little bit on the DL,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
official, but not, not really,
Yeah.
and they get like, they give them nothing because, they don't want to like, give them too much information, but literally where they get one name. Or I've heard about them holding on to like a piece of the clothing that was found, right?
Right.
And yeah, and trying to use that as like an energy type of like vault to be able to go in and see and hear what they feel. Yeah, amazing. Gosh. There's just so many aspects to it. I just find it so interesting. And also I find it like you have to be the conscious mind can kick in so very much,
Yeah.
right? And the factual mind,
Mhm.
you really have to have such good discernment. So I respect the work. I really do. I respect it so much. And because obviously some of the stories and situations are quite harrowing, really harrowing.
Yeah.
But I love how you said, you really want to help, right? You want to bring either closure or information to people,
Yeah.
and that's what it's all about, That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Amazing. And I love that you teach it as well. You must be really good at that. Did you ever feel like you've done it in like, a life before this one or a past life? Have you ever thought that?
Yeah, I think that's actually part of why that's my passion. It's just something, right?
Something,
It's like,
right? Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. And you're
Beats me.
right. It's your thing, right? And some of my friends who have their sun in Scorpio, they love that kind of like digging beneath, researching it, seeing behind it. So I think you have all of the talent to bring to that work. That's so
Wow.
fabulous. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything here. No, I really think that we touched on all of those ones, and I think that was a great answer about the lost relatives. That's fabulous. One thing that, I wanted to bring in what you were talking about with dreams was, I find it really fascinating when the psychic detective sphere can mold with the mediumship one, right? Kind of what I was talking about, and specifically with dreams, right? I wonder if, we were able to teach psychic mediums about dreams and how to decode them, if that might be like a channel, right, for further information, because I tell you, it's limitless what you can get from dreams, right? Because the soul mind is able to reign supreme. So yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about that, that reminds me, I don't know why to bring up this earlier, but
Hmm.
about people who psychics who do get this information, they dream it, right? They have a vision
Hmm.
and they often go to the police and they're not heard,
They're not
right? So
heard.
kind of yeah, being validated. I love the idea of incorporating dreams
Mm. God,
into the
I would
work.
love to.
Yeah.
That's one way that I know I can help. I think I'm a little bit too soft to be able to do the work. I really am. I think you guys are so tough. But if there's one way that I could help, that would be one way. Because I think that like for in a lot of dreams, like if they're not a visitation one, if it's one where you're dreaming about your human life, and we can walk through maybe an example that I brought along today. But if you can walk through it, they're almost like little crumbs of intuition given to you that then you have to like put together. And I could
Mhm.
see it really merging with the psychic detection work really, really well, because it's something that unfolds specifically over time, right? Multiple
Yeah.
dreams can show you multiple things. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Well, actually, I want to make sure that I come with my promise also to teach people a little bit of a way to decipher dreams. Yeah. Now, before I do it, just because I think it mixes well with what we're talking about, what is a visitation dream and how powerful they are, I wanted to just share one that a reader and listener submitted so that I can give you a good understanding about how sophisticated sometimes this can come. So this was the dream. I was helping her mom, and her mom is Beth, travel via plane home from somewhere. And her mom kept wandering off. I'd look for her and she'd find me and she'd find her way back to me, and then it would happen again. When we go to their house, I'm assuming that getting off the airplane, there were garbage cans on a visible side of the house and they kept blowing away. The neighbor started to complain. I suggested they put some type of fence up to prevent them from blowing away. After that, in the house, her dad gave me a handwritten note in her dad's handwriting. It said, "Dear Beth, we're okay. Love, M and D." Yeah, crazy,
Oh,
right? Really beautiful. And here's some really beautiful aspects of this is the actual, like when her obviously mom and dad, M and D, right? They're in spirit, yeah. That when she was delivered the note in the dream, it was actually in the dad's handwriting. Like it wasn't just a note, it was like specifically in
whoa.
his handwriting. I know, right? It's so incredible. And so these are these really sophisticated ways that our loved ones in spirit can really like bring in their energy into a dream, construct an entire setting for us to enter into, and just put so much energy into making sure that you really get it, right? I've had dreams of loved ones in spirit where, the dream will take on its story, and then towards the end, I remember one dream, like I picked up my phone and my phone had been off, and then all the messages started bubbling up, and here was one from this friend, and here was one from this friend. And then at the very end, the loved one of mine in spirits, like at the very end, got their note and, "Hey, how's it going? Hope you have a great Monday. XL, XL," right? Just at the end, right? Just at the end so that you would see it. So it's so sophisticated the way that they could do this, right? And it's just so lovely, right? And it's her mom And, you'd have to go into it and unfold it a little bit, but the mother here, when she was trying to find her and she would always come back to her, she did have dementia in her life, right? Yeah.
Oh,
And so it's something you have to go into it to truly understand it. They certainly don't have dementia in the world of spirit, right? Because they are
right.
healed and home. But sometimes I found that spirits will do it in a dream so that you really know it's them. So they will replay memories that you have of them so that it's like undeniable that you're making a connection with them. And so I've seen them, I've seen spirits, loved ones from spirit pull out all the stops in dreams so that you'll remember, you'll know it's them, things of this nature. So, and when she woke up from this dream, she's a friend of Beth in the dream. I mean, she was like sat upright in bed and was like, wow, what just happened? I mean, you really feel it, right? You really feel it when stuff like that happens. So yeah, that's a beautiful one that I always love to share because it shows how creative people can get. And I mean, that's a 5-minute dream, right? That's really something quite small, but very impactful, very, very powerful. Yeah.
Gosh.
Right? I know you really, so she's not a psychic medium, right? She's just very diligent with her dreams, but it shows you too that our loved ones in spirit will use anyone to get a message through, right?
Yeah.
And anybody, right? They really will. If in any way that they can, they'll get it through to show you that you love never dies and that you're still connected. But let me get into the little model that I would love to give to people. So there's a really handy way when you are trying to be your best own psychic and get information from your dreams that to be able to decipher things. And I there's a full framework for this, but I love to give people like 3 quick steps because like a teacher, right? I know I want you to be able to use it. So one thing you can ask yourself is, regardless of how elaborate the dream is, when you wake up, a really great way is to be like, okay, what was like the entire emotion of the dream, right? Dreams like this. I know dreams like this. Some of them can be like high angst, like there's anxiety, right? A common symbol here is I'm driving down the road and I can't reach the brakes, or I can't do it. You've had that one, right?
Yeah, I did that one.
Right? I've had ones where I'm forced to drive the car from the back seat. You know what I mean? Like all of these weird things, right? And other times there can be like, well, no, the dream wasn't that, but it was I was searching for something, right? Had to go around this corner, in this building, down the street. And then a third one is that's just to kind of give you a good idea about emotions of dreams. And then another one, like, it just felt great. It felt peaceful. It felt lovely. I knew what was going on. I felt at peace. If you wake up and try to identify what is the emotion of the dream, right? High anxiety, lots of anger, lots of peace. I was searching. What is it? What often is a really helpful tool for people before you get into the symbolism and the nitty gritty is there a situation in your current life where you are experiencing that? Is there a situation where you feel like you're not in control and it scares you? Driving, not being able to steer the car, right? Is if there's a high anxiety dream where you're, running from here and running there, what type of life situation are you going through that's producing anxiety? Because the really great way of doing that is like a quick way to enter into the dream meaning is you have been given a message in that dream for either how to understand that life situation, how to solve it, or how to really just cope with it, right? The one thing that I love to tell people is that once you really start to decode your dream, and this happens on only the 3rd or 4th time where you start to just gain some momentum, there is more often than not a little part in the dream that is helpful advice about how to deal with it. And sometimes it's cloaked in symbolism, right? But it is often there, right? So that's the first step that I love to tell people, identify the emotion of what's going on. The second step that I love to tell people is identify the symbols. People's teeth falling out sounds crazy, right? Teeth falling out, yeah? Super common. For some people, it can mean like emotional instability. For others, it can mean that, our teeth shouldn't fall out of our mouth, right? So things are coming out of your mouth that shouldn't be, right? That you're talking about something that shouldn't be talked about, that you're obsessing about maybe something negative and voicing it and giving it energy, right? So you want to try to, after you define the emotion, try to get a little bit of symbolism underway. And you can get as sophisticated as you want, but if you get like the 3 or 4 basics, it can again point you in the right direction. So if I have high anxiety dream, I've identified the emotion, and then I'm dreaming about my teeth falling out, I can understand that there's something going in my life causing emotion, causing a lot of anxiety. And either the way I'm talking about it or how I feel about it, it's basically I'm going down the wrong track, right? And I really need to reassess the information. The third thing that I love to tell people is if you look at it from a standpoint of it's giving you advice, what type of advice could it be? There is generally 2 to 3 types of dreams that we have as human beings, really souls dreaming, but in a human body. And that is they can be of a emotional or psychological nature, right? Of giving you advice about it, trying to understand about something that's going on in your life, relationships, right? That's a big ringer. The second thing is a spiritual one, right? As in, like, I'm having a dream about my soul self, I'm having a dream about connecting in spirit, what have you. And the third one is really one where it's really just trying to give you an understanding about who you are, right? It's almost like holding up a mirror, allowing you to see who you are, what goals you came in for, how it's going, right? And how you are navigating it all. So that's the third step that I love to tell people. So the steps are like, wake up, find the emotion. What is it? Is it anger? Is it anxiety? And where are you experiencing that in your life? 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to do it. Second step is you don't need to get too sophisticated, but underline what you believe to be symbolic. If you were holding a pink giraffe and had polka dot socks on, it's a bit symbolic, right? The other ones are big ones, right? Teeth falling out, not being able to drive the car. People dream a lot about large bodies of water, right? That's a big common theme as well. And the third one is just, okay, if it's an emotional dream and psychological one, then you've been given some insight on that. If it's a spiritual one, take the insight for that. And the last one is it trying to give you an example of like who you are and how you're changing, right? What's going on in your mind, yeah? And so that's something that I love to give to people. Otherwise, it can be, it can be a little bit like, oh, I had this dream, I don't understand what it is. When really these are very, very strong, symbolic, very helpful things for you to be in your life. It's pretty remarkable also what you can find, right? When you really start to get your head around it. Yeah.
I
I,
love I
yeah.
love that. Thank you for sharing that because I am a huge dreamer
Mhm.
and generally I know what my dreams mean, right? But
Yeah.
I never journal them. And
Yeah.
I wonder if I did that. I love starting with the emotion
Mhm.
and then the symbolism
Mhm.
because I think I just look at the whole thing. Oh, that was a scary, I'm driving and I can't see or something,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I love that. I'm going to try that and actually get
Yeah.
it down and then be able to maybe go back to it as well.
That's it. And if you start recording them, and some people they'll start with pen and paper and they're like, Claire, I just can't get it all together, and they'll record them like audio, right? The simple act of recording them is about 50% of the job. If you
Oh,
record it, yes, it's basically rewiring your brain to understand and review it, right? And taking the time to do it. And so you remember it better, you start to see the whole picture better, you don't like itemize it too much, right? And, we're literally in a different state of consciousness when we dream. Like, how many of us have woken in the morning and been like, I had this incredible dream. And then you go, like, to help your child get out of bed or go to the bathroom and it's gone, right? It really shows you 2 things. One, you have to get it down on paper if you really want to start to see it or record it. And the other thing is truly a different state of consciousness, right? It literally is perpendicular to the normal world that we're experiencing every day. So yeah, you would be very surprised. The very cool thing is then, let's say you got really diligent with it and maybe you were jotting down, like three dreams per month. It's
mhm.
incredible to go back after a couple of months and to see, oh, that's what that was. Or, oh, great, I'm working on that and that's gotten better, right? I worked through that. So I love to call it when you see the sequence, right? When you see the dream sequence. Yeah, powerful, powerful stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
I love it. Yeah.
So
Well,
I
yeah, go
I
on.
know, sorry, I know you teach these classes 'cause I'm interested in taking one.
Mhm.
Um can you tell us how we find out about it? Because
Sure
how do we
thing.
get this? What is it about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as a psychic medium, probably very similar to yourself, in addition to doing readings, I'm really big about mentorship, right? And I offer one-to-one mentorship where you can join me for 4 to 6 weeks. And I try to design like a very impactful program that even someone that's super busy can get into, right? And I offer two different mentorships. One is intuition mentorship, where you are literally trying to find out what is my powerhouse, what is my superpower. I love that you call it that. How do I tap into it? How do I distinguish it from anxiety? How do I begin a meditation practice that I can get into? I use all of the modalities I've been doing astrology for 20 years, so I bring it in and working with people's birth chart, a really high focus amount, right? So that's intuition. That's for 4 weeks. You can find that on my website, clairefalcon.com. I take in students on different cohorts of rolling applications throughout the year. And then I do 6 weeks for dream mentorship, and I add 2 weeks there because of something that you just said. Sometimes people have to learn, get in the pattern of recording their dreams, because you'd be surprised how many people are like, I never remember my dreams. I just don't, it's not there. And I'm like, well, it is there, but you just have to access it, right? We all dream, right? We all dream. It's just whether or not we can remember it. So that is like a 6 week program with me where, similar to the intuition mentorship, it's designed completely to use the dream channel as an intuitive channel, right? And so I build meditations for people going through it. I look at their birth chart as well. And then I take them through a really beautiful, highly structured module, 6 of them, where it's like, okay, what are our dreams? How do we decode them? What's our own personal glossary? I give them my 80-page glossary of here are all of the symbols that I've curated over the years. And then I take them through a step-by-step, kind of like the 3 steps that I showed you today, but expanded and extended. And I go through and I teach them how basically to interpret the dream. And it is remarkable. People are blown away. And it's not because of me, it's because that this work is so powerful, of tapping into like your psychic storehouse, that's how people can get involved. So in addition to the soul past life journeys that I give, and psychic readings and mediumship readings like yourself, I love those mentorship programs. So that's how people can find out about it at clairefalcon.com. And I'll plug your website as well as mine and our Instagram handles. And that's how people can sign up. Yeah, that's how people can sign up. And just likewise, Kelly, what is like you talk about classes and about teaching psychic detection. How do people find out about that, and specifically the indigenous cultures and that you do, the work that you do?
Yeah, so all the information is on my website, so mediumkellykristine.com.
Mhm.
I try to do one missing and murdered Indigenous women psychic investigation class a month.
Nice.
The next one's coming up, I think, June 9th, so not too
Very
far
good.
away.
Very good.
And we work on a case or a couple of cases. And, one of the things is I believe everybody's psychic,
Mhm.
right? But you don't actually have to be psychic. This is actually a good way to get your feet wet,
That's cool.
because it's safe, right?
Yeah.
You get something, and somebody else gets it, it gives you the validation you need.
Mhm.
If you get it wrong, who cares? You could be the only one who's right and you think you're wrong. So
Exactly.
it's really a good way. It is hard work, as you said. It is hard emotionally. So
Mhm.
it's really not for everybody.
Mhm.
But
Good
if,
point.
I always look at it like I'm helping,
Mhm.
right? So if that's how I get around all the ugliness.
That's
um,
beautiful.
and
That's
just kind of
beautiful.
sending that out into the universe as healing.
Mhm.
So that's my next one,
Nice.
June 9th,
Mhm.
which is a Sunday and is 3 hours.
Mhm.
I also have a subscription coming out
Cool.
on June 21st, and it's called Third Eye Sleuth.
Cool.
And so this is where I will give you one case each month that you work on independently. It's like a mini case, so it helps you to find out what you're good at.
Mhm.
It helps you to get validation,
Mhm.
and you can join the wait list on that if you'd like to know more about that.
Mhm.
And that one is thirdeyesleuth.com
Mhm.
wait list.
Very
Um,
cool.
put it on there for.
We'll plug it, absolutely. We'll
Yeah.
plug all of that, absolutely. I love that you teach this as well. I think that like your teaching skills would be just so awesome in classes like that. And you're right, it's about the intention. The intention is super important. And if you're out there to help, then that's going to really help the emotional aspects of this, which like I said, I just have so much respect that you guys do that. So that's a beautiful way of seeing it, Kelly. I like that you say that. That's fabulous.
Yeah, and it doesn't work for everybody, and so it's
Mhm.
like you just have to kind of feel into it, right?
That's right.
And other people have different ways of helping.
That's very true.
So, yeah,
That's
this
very
might be your
true.
way. Dreams might be your way,
That's
you know.
right. That's right.
Um,
I love it. And at the end of the day, like what you said too, and I forgot to say that, this is like whatever we're looking at, like if you go for the psychic detection or if you go for dream work, really it's all coming back to your birthright as a soul, which is to tap into your own intuition, right? To tap into your own understanding of how your mystical reach in the world can help others, So I love that. I love that. And I want to make sure I mention that because it's a new offer on my website, but I offer a free masterclass for people who are really interested in tapping into what we just said about everyone's superpower, finding what's yours, finding your own intuition. Yeah, it's a downloadable. You can go to my website, clairefalcon.com. It's a free masterclass. You can sign up via email, all pre-recorded. And I take people through like these steps of accessing their intuition, right? And accessing how you can connect to it and what are easy ways to do it, what highly potent, effective ways that don't like take a lot of time. They just take the right intention, right? Of what we talked about. So yeah, I'll plug that in here too, but it's a free masterclass that I'm offering to just to allow people to understand how you can tap into it. I love that. Yeah. And so, Kelly, if I put your Instagram stuff on our lovely talk today, people can
yeah.
find out also about some of the different, because I know you're super active with a Facebook group about different cases that you're looking at, right? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try everything. I'm an
Yeah.
old trying to learn new tricks, right?
That's awesome. You go for it because I love how you present it as well. It makes it very like it's not something that you get scared off easily, right? Because the way that you deliver it, I love, and the way that you're able
Thanks.
to really cut it down. Absolutely. I love that. Well, that's fabulous. Well, what a great talk, Kelly. Thank you for taking time today to answer all of my questions and talk about
Oh,
all this great stuff.
thank you too. This was really fun. We'll have to do it again.
We will have to do it again.
And when you were talking, I'm thinking
Mhm.
we might have to do some collaboration
Ooh,
on
that's
dreams
good.
and psychic detection or something.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God, I love it. We should do it. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about it is, and before we end, I know that you know how trance mediums work, and I know probably that you're even dabbled in it. But I often think that for psychic mediums doing work, psychic detection, their own, whatever they're doing, I feel like if they had a good grasp of dreams, it's almost like being your own great trance medium because your
Yes,
conscious mind is fully laid to the side. So there's no like interference about what you think and what could it be and analysis paralysis. It's like fully laid to the side when you sleep. So I think a collab would be really interesting. I really do. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah, think about it. All the
yeah.
ideas, Kelly. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We have loved being here for you. We will plug all of our work so you can find out what we're doing. Stay tuned and we'll be with you again.